This is Tony Cooper, and I'm just sitting down. All right, here we go. Well, look. So I'm starting a series, and this particular series is going to be on a trip we made to Costa Rica in 2023. This particular episode and several subsequent episodes are going to recap a trip that Diana and I made to Costa Rica in February, March of 2023. So, if you don't know anything about Costa Rica, it is a Central American country that is in the southern part of Central America and is bordered to the north by Nicaragua and is bordered to the southeast by Panama. As you know, Central America kind of goes to one direction to as it empties, if you will, into South America. So Costa Rica is a very ecologically friendly country, and that is to say that they take a great deal of pride in taking care of the air, the water, the everything. They take a great deal of pride in their country. It is touted as being about the size of West Virginia overall in land. However, it's more of a tube shaped kind of thing, which I guess that means that it has coasts on the Gulf and on the Pacific Ocean. There's also a bay that I think is called Colorado Bay. And we spent a day or two there on that bay, or near it anyway. We didn't go into too much water, but I'll get into that as well. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you're going to hear about. But I'm going to start off with our trip. So this was my first international trip in quite some time. I think the last international trip I took, I didn't need a passport for because I had a military ID. So, and that had to be in the 70s. I mean, that was a long time ago. And so we decided to do this based on a couple of things. The first was I had seen some advertising materials from one of the volumes of of tour companies that take people for a number of different reasons, but the biggest reason we wanted to go was the wildlife. We wanted to go see all the amazing birds, and there are also, I mean, some other things that we saw. We saw monkeys. We saw some other ground animals. So, in addition to humans, of course, which was weird, but the idea was to go for the birds. I think I don't recall how many different birds there are total that have been seen in Costa Rica, but I know it was somewhere over 300. And I think we photographed somewhere between 220 and 270. I don't know. Diana can probably better tell you that. And I have an interview coming up with her, which I'll feature at some point during this series. This is an ongoing series, but it's not necessarily a sequential series. So this is episode 1 of the Costa Rica series, but it won't necessarily be followed by episode 2 because there's a lot of other stuff that I want to get in. In Costa Rica, our tour company was called Tropical Birding, and I don't know why specifically we settled on them, but we did like one of the things that we liked a great deal was that this particular tour, as do many of the tours that go to Costa Rica, include your lodging, transportation around the country, food. So, and in some cases, snacks. There were several cases where we were afforded snacks. Um, and it's kind of loosely put together. I don't know. That's not really the phrase I'm looking for. But if we're traveling from point A to point B and we're kind of on a deadline, we're probably not going to stop unless somebody urgently has to go to the bathroom. But there were instances where, our tour guide, Ben is his name, where he would call out, "Hey, we're thinking about stopping in this town. Who needs stuff?" At one point, I needed a new toothbrush, and we got some snacks for ourselves. And of course, Ben would pick up, a case or two of bottled water, um, and more on water in a little bit. But overall, this was it just looked like this was the best experience for us as far as getting into the country, around the country with somebody who knew where to find the better things, the better birds, the better pathways, the better locations, that kind of thing. And I don't think there was a lot of consideration given to costing overall, or at least specifically, simply because in a lot of cases, we would go, "Hey, we're going to we're going to this little place on the side of the road," and everybody would, order what they want, kind of thing. And it didn't say don't order anything expensive. That was just, I felt like there were not a whole lot of limitations on stuff like that. There were some accommodations made because at the time Diana was going through some really bad knee problems. And by the end of it, I kind of was too. So they were very accommodating in helping us out and getting us hooked up. The guide he was wonderful. He's probably listening to this going, "Oh, stop it. You're not that wonderful." But he really was, because he made some accommodations, like I said, in unexpected ways. And those little things mean a lot. Just to give you an example, and this is probably not in any other part of my conversation, but at one point, we got to, I think this was our last resort that we went to. It was in the Highlands, and a lot of these Highlands eco lodges, they're built kind of on the side of a mountain, and you know how the side of a mountain is. Holy moly! You're walking down a trail, and if you don't have staying power to stay on the trail, which they were amazing trails, you're gonna roll down them. You're gonna go too fast. And for people who have knee problems, like Diana and I both did at the time, um, we're gonna have more problems. So we were afforded one of the cabins that was like right on the arrival level. So here's um, the lobby, the restaurant, that kind of thing, and then here's our little cabin right here. And it wasn't noisy. It wasn't like we were constantly awakened by people arriving or leaving or whatever. So that was one accommodation. The other accommodation had everything to do with if Diana was holding back because overheating or knee issues or whatever. Ben stayed with her while everybody else went ahead, and for the most part, so did I, unless Diana said, "Please go ahead," And if you see the bird we're here looking for, shoot it. If you don't, I'll be down there as soon as I can. So that was kind of nice, and not from the standpoint that I felt like I had no problems abandoning her in order to go get a shot of the bird. I often did have problems with it, but I knew that she was in good hands with Ben by that point. Halfway through, we were all good friends. We'd been together for a week now, and everybody was very friendly toward each other and helping each other out, and the group was just amazing. But this particular episode is about our trip there and our first 3 days. So we always tried to, since this trip, we've always tried to leave out of the nearest international airport, which is Dulles Airport for us, which is about 45 minutes to an hour drive, depending on the time of day. But in this particular case, when I was booking the airfare to get to Costa Rica, I was not paying attention to the airport. In fact, I selected Washington area because I said, I could go out of National Airport in D.C., or I could go out of Baltimore Washington International, either one of those, or Dulles. But when I wanted to narrow my selection down to Dulles, I don't know what I did incorrectly, but I ended up getting our first flight was out of National Airport in D.C. And that was fine, but my return flight was into Dulles Airport. I couldn't just drive to National Airport and do park and ride or whatever it is for that location. Instead, what I had to do was I reserved an economy spot at Dulles Airport for my car. I parked my car. We went to the airport terminal. We got a Washington Flyer cab, which I like. I like that these operate this way because they only go from the airport to hotels or other destinations. Okay, they don't go from the hotel to another hotel or to, they're not a city cab. They are only specifically for the airport. And so that was, we booked that in advance. I booked the parking in advance. I booked the Washington Flyer. I don't think I booked it so much as I made sure it was going to be available. And they were like, "Yeah, you're fine. Whenever you get here, just hop in." And what we did was we went to a hotel in Arlington, Crystal City. And the biggest reason why I wanted to do that is because our flight was at 10 something in the morning. And I wanted to get over to the airport in plenty of time. And I didn't want to have to get up at dark ugly in the morning and drive to Dulles Airport, drop off our car, get a cab to National Airport, which we could have done, and then fly out directly from there. I wanted to be rested if possible. And so we got our cab, took us to the Marriott Arlington Crystal City. We have a rewards club with Marriott, so I decided to go ahead and get some points from staying there. So we stayed there. We got there early evening, I guess, and we wanted to let's see. And so we got there, and this is a two-leg flight from National. I'm sorry, we got to the hotel, we get checked in. It was, pretty straightforward, normal stuff. And when we got there, um, and we got settled in, we got some dinner, and we were pretty much set up. I guess we probably watched a little TV. I don't really remember. I just wanted to get some sleep. And so we did that. We got up fairly early. Our flight, like I said, was 10:05. Oh, there it is. I keep notes, so and you're going to learn just how detailed these notes get once we get to that point. So we took the airport's shuttle, which was leaving at like 8. I think it was leaving at 8:10, and every 20 minutes after that kind of thing. We actually didn't leave till like 8:15, but we got there in plenty of time, and we got checked in, boarded not long after that, and our first flight was to Miami, Florida, and we got there probably just after noon or so, and then we had like a 6-hour layover, which was it's a lot. Layovers of that. 2-3 hours, I'm good with that, but 6 hours was quite a bit. So, but it wasn't that big a deal until you realize just how big that freaking airport is. So, and we left our house on Valentine's Day on the 14th. We got to the hotel on the 14th, and we left the hotel on the 15th to National, and we took a flight to Miami, Florida. And like I said, you don't know how big that airport is until you have to change gates. So we were in section, I want to say it was section D, concourse D, I guess they call them. And it was getting to be probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours before our flight. Maybe sooner than that, because there was a sense of urgency for us to get to our new gate. The gate was changed not long before our flight was to depart, and so here we are. Diana's got knee issues. She's walking with a cane, and we don't want to exacerbate that. We don't want to get to Costa Rica and then have a whole bunch of problems before we even get started on the tour. And I had pre-planned 3 days in Costa Rica before the actual tour started, which wasn't until the 18th. So there I was, there we were in Costa Rica, or in the Miami airport, and it was very uncomfortable seating. I think they were probably designed for 45 minutes of use, 45 minutes to an hour. And we didn't really have a whole lot of choice about where to sit. I mean, you go to a restaurant, but you got to order something. You go to a bar, you got to order something. You have more comfortable chairs, I think. But either way, we were sitting in a gate, and we learned about an hour or so before our flight that the gate had moved. It's a section E. And you're thinking, well, D, E, right? No. It's more like D is right here, and E is right about there. Yeah. So it was quite a haul. I would say 2 minutes into realizing that we had to move from gate to gate, Diana saw one of those electric carts and a driver, and we said and asked if we could be taken to this gate in section E. And at first, he was a little bit perplexed, because I'm not sure that somebody had ever asked him that. That's what he was there for. But I'm I'm guessing maybe he was on a break or something. I don't know. But either way, he consented. He said, "Yeah, hop in. We're good." So we headed out. Um, and even in the electric cart, which wasn't really going much faster than people could walk, it still took us 15 minutes to get from where we were in the decon course to where we needed to be in the econ course. And and that would have been a heck of a lot of walking, but at at this pace, we were still able to get to our gate. We were able to get checked in and boarded in plenty of time. And then we were off, and we were happy that we were not coming back through Miami on the way back. Um, so, so once we got airborne, it was starting to get to it was late evening by that time. 7 o'clock departure, something like that. And let's see, 10:05 flight to Miami, 7 p.m. flight to San Jose in Costa Rica. It was a reasonably good flight. There weren't a whole lot of bumps and waggles, but we were going to be getting in there a little after 9 o'clock, and it was 9 o'clock Central Time because Costa Rica is on Central Time. So it was a little over 3 hours ish, I guess, flight. Um, and I had been told that the shuttle for our first hotel in Costa Rica, left promptly at 9:30 p.m. And I was okay with that, I guess, but um, I was hoping to get off the plane through immigration control, passport control, get our bags, and get out to the shuttle. And it wasn't there when we got after we got our bags, which took forever. And honestly, the baggage carousel area in this airport, was super hot. It was outside hot, and now Costa Rica is not overwhelmingly hot country. It's not in the hundreds kind of thing, but it isn't cold either, even at night. So it was pretty warm. It was a pretty warm day, and it was pretty warm in the baggage area. And we were both just really getting frustrated that our bags had not come through yet. And it was terribly warm. We were both hungry. We were both very tired from a day of sitting around and or traveling. It seems to really kick both of us in the butt when we travel. And we learned a lot about that when we were going. So after landing, going through passport, we went to the baggage area, waited for a long time for our bags, uh, and that was kind of what we encountered for the next 5 to 7 days. We did get our bags, and it was after the last shuttle left for our hotel. So, long story short, we went out to this area where everybody's holding a sign, either with somebody's name on it, or a destination where they're going, or whatever. And you don't, and it's not something that you're necessarily you've been exposed to before. I had not been exposed to before. I'd never seen anything like this before. So I didn't know if these were just guys for hire. They were saying, "Hey, we'll take you anywhere you want to go," or if it was always a destination where they were headed, or what it was. So at some point, we've been there about 15 minutes, and I was trying to think, if we go back upstairs, that's where we can catch an Uber, because they pick up people on what's called the arrival level, I guess. But you have to go back upstairs, which means slogging our bags back through the airport, because there's no access to this gateway from outside the airport. And we didn't want to do that. So I was sitting there for a few minutes, and I was looking at my phone trying to figure out what was the best way to do this. And some random dude comes up and he says, "Do you need a cab?" And we said, "Sure." And I looked at Diana and she said, "Yeah, let's just go." So I said, "Yeah, let's get a cab." And he said something like 20,000 or 20 is what he said. He meant 20,000, which was 20,000 colognes, which was the equivalent to about $40. Okay, and I said $40. I'm tired enough that I don't mind paying $40. How far are we going? And when I looked at it on Google Maps, even in Costa Rica, I realized it was only like 15 minutes away. So no big deal. $40 for a 15-minute cab ride. Being exhausted, I just was ready to get to the hotel and settle in. So we got there, or we got on the road. We had to walk through a parking lot with our bags to get to this guy's car. We put the bags in his car. We hop in. Off we go. Okay. Let me rewind for a bit. When we were coming into Costa Rica, it was nighttime. The views were stunning, just absolutely stunning, because San Jose is basically surrounded by mountain ranges, and it was a beautiful sight as we were coming in. But one of the things I started to notice as we began our descent is that it was getting rough. We were getting a lot of crosswind, and that's typical of areas which are surrounded by mountains and valleys, that kind of thing. So as we were flying in, I have this nausea band thing that I wear on my wrist, and it is supposed to suppress nausea at certain levels for a certain period of time. Okay, and that was good. And so as we were flying along, I was fine. I had it like at a level 3 out of 5, and we hit the turbulence and the crosswinds, and I was starting to have real problems with motion sickness. I suffer so horribly from motion sickness. I'm not even afraid to talk about it now, simply because I do. That's a fact of life. And it has plagued me throughout my life, and it may be just one of those internal things that keeps me from going on certain types of travel, because I just know I'm to barf. But this thing had really, really helped out. I felt nothing throughout the entire flight until we until we were headed into San Jose. On approach, I would say we were less than 5 miles from the airport, and I realized I'm going to have to pull the barf bag from the back of the seat in front of me. I pull it up, and Diana looks at me and she goes, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah. I mean, I've got the barf band, I've got my nausea band going, but it's on level 3." And she said, "You have 2 more levels above that." And I said, "Oh yeah." So I turned it up, and within a minute, literally within a minute, I turned it off, or I put the bag back in the holder behind me, and she looked at me as if to say, "Well, that's a plus. At least you won't be, having to recover from barfing." And it takes me a while to recover from barfing. I really, really hate that, but hey, it is what it is. So I feel fine. We were kind of flying in sideways at one point because of the crosswinds, and I, you know that's just the way it is. You can't change things once you're on the airplane. You can't change the way it works. But we got in there and landed, got to our gate, um, unloaded, got ourselves into the terminal, and now we can go back to the rest. Like I said, the guy was, who picked us up, was going to taxi us over to our hotel. I tell him where it is. It's this particular hotel. It's a Marriott, yada yada. And he says, "Okay, I know where it is. It's fine." So we head out. We're driving along, and we pull into this area, and I don't remember a picture of the hotel when I was booking it, but I do remember that it was um, in an area. I guess it's an area, or it's something um, that he keyed to. And so we pull in, we get our bags, taken out of the trunk, and I pay him, and he was fine. He was like, "Thank you very much. Hope you have a good trip, etc." And he was off. So we just park our bags, outside for a moment. I went in to check in, and they can't find my reservation, which was disconcerting right off. And then the guy wanted to see, my confirmation. And so I had everything on my phone. I had this all laid out in advance. I really wanted to be prepared. And I was. I had all my documentation on there, all my reservations, everything. So I pulled it up, and he said, "That's actually not us. That's not this hotel." Said that hotel is over that way, and I had no idea where he was pointing to, but sure enough, it wasn't this hotel. So he said he was going to call us a cab, and he did. So this next guy, he comes in there after about 10, 15 minutes, which we were starting to get worried. He said, did he get lost or something? But he pulls in, and it's like a bus type of taxi. We hop on, and he says it's going to be $40. And I said, I still don't care. So now I'm up to $80 for a taxi to a bad hotel, or the wrong hotel, and the right hotel. We finally get to the right hotel. We get checked in. By this time, it's like 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 maybe. And we just get in. We have some snacks. We drink some water, and we went to bed. Our hope was that we were going to be ready for the next day, which was the 16th, to get some rest and then go to the Central Market, which is in pretty much downtown San Jose. And we were looking forward to it because it's much heralded. It's huge, and there's lots of vendors and restaurants and all kinds of stuff that you can get into. And this was a good diversion day for us to just unwind on our day after a lot of travel. And to both of us, it was optional. We didn't make any reservations or anything like that, which you don't need to. So we hailed an Uber, and I had with Uber, you got to put in the destination, and I put in the destination that said Central Market. Apparently, much to my surprise, there's more than one Central Market in San Jose. There is one that is just outside. Well, I should say that one of them was just outside of San Jose in another area. It has its own Central Market. And I was like, okay. Well, traveling there, I did not anticipate San Jose traffic. Um, the the stop signs, I think, are a suggestion. Stop if there's nothing coming, or whatever it might be. But as we were driving along, there was a lot of beep beep and getting out of the way of bikes and going around people walking in the road and people on bicycles and scooters and other cars, obviously. But it was so much. There was so much going on, and I started to get sick. And then once that motion sickness motion starts to nausea, it's easier to get there than if you were if you never felt it at all. Okay. So, with all of the traffic on the roads and all this other stuff, I did get sick. Thankfully, we had picked up a beverage from a Starbucks, which was right outside our hotel. And I'll get into the hotel when we get back from our little adventure. Um, we had gotten a beverage and we had almost finished them when we got picked up, and so I had an empty cup, so I barfed into the empty cup. The driver asked Diana if I was okay, and she said, "Yeah, he just got a little sick." Now, mind you, Diana speaks very good Spanish. She doesn't like to believe that she's somewhat fluent, because fluency means that you can speak it without having to think about it. And I kind of do too. I mean, everybody has their own level of Spanish, and I'd been using some learning software from the beginning, say 6 months beforehand, just about every day, doing Spanish lessons, and it paid off to some degree. I was able to use it for some things, but in any case, she told him that I was just sick, and we were like 2 minutes away from the Central Market at that point. He dropped us off, and almost immediately we knew we were at the wrong Central Market. And so, I'm looking it up and I'm saying, this is not the right place. We want to be at the other place, but I can't get in another car right now because I don't feel well. And she was completely sympathetic. She said, okay, well, you know what? Let's get a drink. Let's sit down for a little while, see if we can kind of figure things out. And that is kind of what we did. However, there was a few remarkable things that we noticed. First of all, when you went into some stores, they had their own security. Okay, and it wasn't a guy with a security shirt on, standing in the doorway. It was a guy or girl with a security shirt uh, and full combat gear. Yes, you heard me right. Full combat gear with as many as three weapons, um, ready to do whatever was necessary to protect the business and its patrons. So I never felt endangered. I never felt like I was in any danger when I was in some of these locations. We eventually ended up at a coffee shop, just off of the property for the market we were in. And we ended up getting a coffee and sitting in there for a little while. It was nice and cool. And I had, my body had calmed down quite a little bit. And we both got to the point where we said, you know what, let's just try again another day. And let's go back and just rest up. So that's kind of what we did. We realized we needed more rest than we thought. Air travel is it's so exhausting to me, and thankfully that kind of thinking came in handy later, because after that we were ready to move on to the next thing. And so we did. We went back to the hotel. Now, so this hotel, I think it was like 4 or 5 stories. It was called the AC. It was an AC hotel, which is a Marriott brand, um, and it had some other naming stuff. But it was attached to kind of a little strip mall. There was a pharmacy, drugstore. There was a couple of restaurants. There was a hair and nails place, all kinds of stuff. But out in the courtyard, there was a Starbucks. There was several food trucks, which, based on what I could see, um, some of them were kind of semi-permanent, and some, I think, probably went other places. I don't know. But anyway, there was, there was a Asian food. There were desserts. There were salads. There was a little bit of everything that you could get. So we were never hurting for food choices, and anytime we thought about, hey, we're at the hotel, we want to go eat now. It was no big deal. So what we had planned for our next day was to go to a coffee plantation, which hosts its own butterfly garden. And we were kind of excited about that. At least I was excited about it. Diana was excited about the butterflies. I was excited about the coffee because I'm a coffee slut. But when we woke up in the morning, we were both going, "Oh, this is not good. I just I don't feel well." And that's where we learned two things. First, language barriers sometimes cause confusion. And the language barrier here caused confusion with the people that I had booked this through, which was, I think, Viator Tours. They didn't understand that I was sick, and I didn't understand that they were already at the hotel to pick me up. So once we got that resolved, we said, I'm not coming out. I'm not going to take the tour. Just refund me or whatever it is that you do. And I would have been okay if they said, hey, we don't do refunds, but they do. There was a cancellation fee, but it was like $10 or something like that. So we ended up sleeping quite a bit more after that. And we decided we were going to recuperate. We were going to stay near the hotel. And we needed the day off, and we felt better after that. But we also realized something else. Okay, and this is your your first travel tip for Costa Rica. Here's what they say. They say that the water is safe to drink. They don't say that the water won't hurt you. Okay, and let's clarify hurt. By not hurt you, what I mean is it's not going to make you deathly ill. Okay, like I guess Mexico has a reputation for the water being Montezuma's revenge because it's just going to be the worst experience of your life. And honestly, it was not the worst experience of my life, but it's the first time I had that kind of reaction to drinking water anywhere. So we stocked up on bottled water almost right away. And I'm glad we did, and mostly because it was going to prepare us for what amounted to the rest of the trip. But as you well know, if you eat bad food or you drink bad drink, down the road, it's going to come back on you. And you're going to learn more about that when we get to that point. So, our first encounter with the actual tour was on the next day, which was the 18th, which is what I told you before, that the tour started on the 18th. We got up early enough to get ourselves ready and checked out by 11. We hailed an Uber to take us to the next hotel, and there were several iterations. You know that when an Uber doesn't want to take a fare, they just can cancel it. They can say, no, I don't want to go. It's not far enough, or I don't want to go there. Or, they have a bad rating. I do not. I have a very good rating on Uber. And so we got our driver assigned. 10 minutes later, the ride was canceled. So I went over and got us some food and drink from the Starbucks. May have gotten some fruit. I don't recall. We got breakfast food. We sat out in the courtyard where it was very breezy and waited for our driver. The security guard checked on us at one point to ask us if we were okay because we've been out there so long. And I said, our Uber keeps getting canceled, and it got canceled 3 times before someone actually was going to pick us up. So he explained that he was just making sure, which was very comforting. He was also carrying a weapon. So far, everyone that we had met there was very friendly. They were very helpful, accommodating. They just wanted to help. I just felt like we were taken care of the entire time. I had already activated my nausea ban, so we didn't have any incidences getting to the new hotel. When we pulled up to the new hotel, Hotel Robledal, there was a gate. And the driver asked if I had a code, and I said no. And he said, okay, hold on. So he goes over and he pushes a button on an intercom. And a few seconds later, say 10, 15 seconds, the gate starts opening. And so he pulls in, and we get out, and we thank him, and he pulls back out, and we were done with him. So obviously, we got there earlier than normal check-in. So we did have to wait a little while, but we didn't care. We really didn't. Because it was such a delightful place. It had open air. So it had open breezeways, which were very, very nice. And just a beautiful setting. I felt like we were kind of in the middle of a forest with some hotel rooms, basically. Eventually, they told us that the room was ready. It had just been cleaned, and that was great. We got a room key, and it was a pretty nice room. It had AC, it had big beds, it had a very functional bathroom, and we felt well enough to just go ahead and grab a camera and go and scour the grounds, because this was also a wildlife area, which was very convenient. Now, it wasn't booked as an eco lodge, but it's near enough to everything else. All of the touristy areas in the San Jose area, which is very big on things like the natural springs and the spas and things like that. And if we had gone down there for that, that's what we would have been doing on day one. But we felt well enough that we were going to walk around the grounds, and we were looking at a variety of things, and there was some wildlife passing through the area. Not long after that, we met one of the other 4 people in our group, the tour people, and we had they had set up a dinner for us at 6:30 to get acquainted with Ben, our tour guide, and get just kind of get a little sense, if you will, of what to expect over the next 14, 15 days of the tour. And so it was a good time, and we had some great laughs, and we relaxed for a while. And we went to our room. We didn't unpack much because obviously we were leaving the very next morning for our first destination. And so another interesting factoid about Costa Rica, and something you should remember, is year-round, sunrise and sunset is approximately the same time, within about 30 minutes. Okay. And so 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., you have 12 hours of daylight for the most part. And all to accommodate our trip, because we didn't have to think about how much time are we losing today. We didn't. If it was 6 o'clock, it was time to get up. If it was 6 o'clock, it was time to go to bed or go to your room or whatever, and that was fine, and that was okay. So we did get a pretty good night's sleep, Diana and I both, simply because we were so freaking exhausted from the last 3 days of having drunk the water. And we were ready to go, and we were ready to go on this adventure, even if we were both probably not in the best physical health, just from a standpoint that we could have We could have spent another day recovering, but we were ready to get going, and I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad we did not do anything stupid like, let's just go back home. No, we didn't. We lasted the entire tour and the entire trip. Yes, there were some hard moments. Yes, there were some disastrous moments. Nobody was injured. None of us were hurt. But there were some disastrous moments, which I'll cover in upcoming episodes. So, but that was our first few days from the 14th through the 18th. We left on the 14th from home, and we ended up on the 18th at Hotel Robledal, which is, like I said, a very nice place. And I'll tell you more about that when we get back there, because that's also where we ended our tour. But I had a very interesting conversation with one of the managers there. And that's it for this episode, because I'm done talking about this part. On the 19th is when we actually started our first trek toward our first eco lodge and our first destination. And it was just so amazing. The whole trip was. I can say that now. At the time, I was going, Jesus, what the hell am I doing this for? But there were, and that was only a few times. But most of the time, I was like, this is going to be, the end result is going to be fantastic. And we both still talking about going back. We talk about, hey, is there a way that we can buy a house there so we can, just go whenever we want, kind of thing, and not have to worry about renting a hotel and getting an Uber or whatever. But anyway, so that's the start of the trip. I hope that you've enjoyed the recollection, some of the pictures. There are a lot more pictures to come. Diana has provided me with over 130, 140 pictures of some of the wildlife that she photographed. Interestingly enough, and I don't know how this happened, for our first 3 days there, we didn't take a single photograph. Not even on our phones. Yes, we're both photographers. Yes, we had all of our gear with us, all of our daylight shooting gear. I had video gear with me. I had my phone, which good quality photos from that too. We didn't take any pictures. It was weird. But I did manage to glean a few from online, and I hope that those have helped you understand where we were and what we were doing. But in our next episode, in the next episode of the Costa Rica series, I'm going to discuss subsequent days. I will decide at the time if there is more or enough to go around for a time period. This is the longest, I think, of the episodes for this series. This is going to run about 50 minutes. This one did run about 50 minutes. I'm telling you at the end how long it's going to run. Aren't I helpful? But it's this is the longest of them. The rest of them, I'm going to try to keep them to around 30 minutes or so. And there's going to be some very good stuff in there. I had the distinguished opportunity to interview Ben, our tour guide, about a year later, maybe a little bit more, a year and a half, maybe later. Fantastic young man. I'll talk more about him as well. And like I said, I have an interview coming up with Diana, and we're going to talk about Costa Rica among many, many, many other things. I may have to do it in multiple parts, simply because there's so much stuff to talk about. But I'm going to end this one, and we're going to move on to the next one next time, or in the next episode. Just stay tuned. You'll get a notification when it's ready. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.